Well, there it is. Hello. We're going to be chatting about some Diablo 4 news that recently came out. It's in regards to their talent system, an enchantment system, and endgame progression system. So, this news article is at Blizzard. There's been many other articles from other websites, but we're going to read from the Blizzard site. And I will try to go through it as efficiently as I can do. So, let's get started. To the Diablo community, hello and welcome to a new installment of our quarterly Diablo 4 developer updates. We enjoyed hearing your thoughts on our last blog and have followed many of the discussions it kicked off within the community. It's very encouraging for us to hear that you appreciate the steady update cadence and the behind the scenes looks at our early work. We're also excited by all the positive reactions we're seeing to the art, cinematics, and the addition of an open world gameplay to the Diablo franchise. The team has poured over a lot of constructive feedback regarding the current direction of itemization, and we're looking to give you an update on items later in the year. Some of the progress we've made will speak directly to the questions we've seen raised in the community, so stay tuned. I couldn't be more excited to share the details in today's update. Our lead systems designer David Kim will take us on a deep dive into the ins and outs of the new skills and talent system. We are currently playtesting the new systems and the early feedback is super promising. I hope you enjoy it, and as always we'll be following the conversations on our forums as well as the community sites. I wonder how people feel about David Kim being in charge. I don't think I minded him too much, but I never stuck around with StarCraft 2 long enough to go through all of the metas, but he was responsible for like the StarCraft 2 balance and stuff like that for units, I believe. So let me know what you think about that. Thank you all for your continued feedback and support in this journey as we make the game. Louis Barraga, I'm sure I butchered that name, game director for Diablo 4, skills and talents. Today we're going to take a look at the skills and talents, a topic many of you asked about, but first, a quick update on the things we've shared in our previous development blogs. Ancestral, demonic, angelic powers. To begin, some of you need to let us know that the fantasy of ancestral, demonic, angelic power just isn't cool enough in the current version of the pitch. Duly noted. Another problem we'd identified was the ratio of effort to rewards. For example, in order to gain specific minor bonuses, players would most likely have to carry around several extra pieces of gear, each with different amounts of ancestral, demonic, angelic power on them. You would then need to constantly calculate each of the power levels of these items and compare with their overall power. It felt like an excessive amount of bookkeeping for the player. So we don't really know any of this stuff because this is only the people that are playtesting it at the moment in the Blizzard offices, but we have to take their word for it. However, one thing we really liked about the system was the gameplay of managing stats in meaningful ways to hit certain bonus thresholds that then make your items better suited for the playstyle you are going for. We need some more time for iteration rework here and look forward for sharing more on itemization on our next quarterly blog. Yeah, so that's pretty sort of vague information, but as long as I feel happy that they're going in the right direction, and gives me a bit more confidence. Legendary items. We are exploring some big changes in the space for two reasons. We agree with the feedback that a character's power is currently too dependent on items. We plan to put more of the player's power back into the character to make building choices more impactful, rather than having the majority of player power coming from the items that they've equipped. That said, it's important that we strike the right balance so that itemization choices always feel meaningful. We've also had very mixed team feedback regarding core itemization. We're currently looking at how to best differentiate our various item qualities. For example, should magic quality items have higher affix stats than rare items? You can expect to hear more about legendary items in our next blog. Well, again, this is hard to speak on because we don't actually have any sort of... Well, we don't have many examples, I'd think, of like rare items or magic items or what they would be or what power level they're supposed to be, because we don't play the game, so you just have to take their word on it. That's up to them to decide. But yeah, I definitely agree that power should be with the player, not the gear. Gear can maybe account for an extra 30 to 50% power maybe for the character, but not really much more than that, because that's always the way it's going to be. Because eventually gear's going to go stack up and up, especially as they introduce more expansions or DLC, so people get even more gear. Unless they boost the initial character power and then increase the gear by a small amount, that way they could help, but eventually gear just overcomes everything and then it becomes annoying because you're so dependent on it. Thank you there, Tainted, for the sub. I have notifications turned off whilst I'm doing this, but thank you there. New skill system. As Lewis mentioned, we have made some major changes to Diablo 4 skill and talent systems. We've been reading through a lot of the comments from the community and agree that the talent system needs more depth. Similarly, skill system progression felt too simple, which created issues where a player would have no meaningful reason to spend their skill points. With this valuable feedback in mind, we have been iterating on a new skill system. As you can see from the screenshot below, we have separate sections for skills and passives in our freshly painted skill tree. Take a look. So this is the skill tree. That's pre-alpha, not final, but you get the idea. I wonder what these red bits are all for. Okay, so you got some real depth going on here. As you branch through towards the left, it looks like frost for maybe sorceress. These looks like sorceress spells or something. Yeah, fireball. But you got fireball mixed with like arcane with frost. If I was to make an assumption, purple would be like arcane, orange would be fire, and teal would be like the frost abilities. So intriguing to look at. Not sure how all the pathways are gonna sort of sync up. I assume that this is one path, this is another path. These red gems obviously have something to do with it, and you maybe need a certain amount of points before you can reach towards the red gem. So yeah, I'm happy that they're going to increase the depth, because that was my main concern upon seeing sort of like the original talent tree that they had. Was it was a talent branch, I think someone said, didn't they? It wasn't a talent tree, it was a talent branch. It was quite small. So yeah, more depth is always good. They don't need to go Path of Exiles. They don't need to do that. They don't need to do that at all, because obviously they're Blizzard. They don't need to prove themselves in that aspect. Don't need to go super complicated, but I would like a lot more choice, because that would make it a lot more fun to build. The thing is they don't want to give you too much choice, right? Because how do you balance that? I don't know how the Path of Exile team do it. Maybe they just don't balance it. But if you give too many options, there's bound to be some sort of wombo combo that someone comes across with a particular piece of gear that makes the character near invincible. And, you know, it's hard to keep track of that. So I can understand why they want to keep it simple, but it's the trick, isn't it? The Sorcerer's Skill Tree. The branches contain skills and skill upgrades, where the roots contain powerful passive effects. Oh, okay, so that's passive stuff at the bottom then, maybe. Ah, so actual skills. So you can unlock actual skills, which is good, because one other concern I had was it felt a bit too similar to Diablo 3 in the sense that the combat was very arcadey, very simple. Like, you really didn't have many spells to play with. Like, you can learn the character within like 5 minutes, basically, when I tested it at BlizzCon myself. And I was like, oh, okay, well, this is how the character is going to be like the whole game through. That's going to be kind of boring. Like, you're not going to... This is... I do Meteor when I get my mobs grouped up. I do Ice when I've got too many of them. I do Lightning to pass through them and to gather them. And then I do sort of Fireball for individual. Okay, well, there you go. I've mastered my class. Like, you know what I mean? Needs a bit more depth. The upper skills section is where you will spend the skill points that you earn by leveling up. Here you unlock brand new skills. So the upper skills section, okay. Unlock additional functionality for these skills and unlock passive points that you can spend on the lower passive section. Okay, so I like this information. This is interesting to me, because I'm definitely interested in Diablo 4 and what they're going to do with it. And it's going to take a while before we get Diablo 4, so we should be getting quite a lot of news. So upper skill section is where you will spend the skill points that you earn by leveling up. Here you unlock brand new skills, unlock additional functionality for these skills. So you get skills and then you get things that sort of like pass off or boost the skills, maybe. Unlock passive points that you can then spend on the lower passive for the tree. So charged bolts is this one over here. Release 6 bolts of lightning that course around in an erratic pattern, dealing damage. See, that's it. You just need more stuff to press. That's cool. Don't want it too complicated, but you want it more complicated than they currently got it, ideally. Ball lightning. Conjure a ball of lightning that slowly moves forward, sapping enemies. Okay, yep, and that deals lightning damage. You can spend skill points on square nodes to unlock new active skills for your character. So the square nodes are the active skills. Charged bolts. Charged bolts create an additional bolt. So the circular ones are ones that basically boost the square. I know, I have to read when I'm doing topics like this, don't I, Random Pick Move? This is what I need the glasses for, though. Ball lightning collapses into crackling energy at the end of its path. And crackling energy gives 25 mana when you move near it. Alright, so you can carry on going. So there's some mechanics there to keep spending and keep blowing up your enemies. Spend points and circular upgrade nodes to enhance active skills you've unlocked. So as you explore the branches of the tree, you will find passive points. So that's those red gems, but they're not all the same. Like that's not got a gem in it. That's got a big gem in it. That's got like half a gem or something. Overcharge. Critical hit effect. Lightning damage has a 3% chance to create crackling energy. Ah, so you get like percentages stuff. That's fair enough. Crackling energy gives 25 mana when you move near it. Yep. You can spend passive points in the tree, roots of the tree to unlock powerful effects. The skill tree you can see above consists of many specific nodes, a sample of which you can see in the screenshots above. If we imagine every single node on that massive skill tree affecting different skills in different ways, the path that you decide to take will determine big power increases and playstyle choices. I wonder if you can respec. I assume you can. The passive part of this system is where you will find more general upgrades to your character. These effects are not specific to particular skills, therefore the skill tree will have a good mix of all types of different choices for players to make. One last thing we want to point out is that the players will not be able to acquire every skill tree node. We're currently aiming for 30 to 40% of the nodes filled in for Endgame, so the players can have very distinct and different builds for their character. So you'll not be able to get every single skill node. So if you look at the tree again, you'll only be able to hit... yeah, I can't show the whole tree. If I do that, you'll only be able to hit about, say, that much of it. Missing the other 2/3. I'm not sure what I think about that. Maybe they should give you a little bit more than 30 to 40%, but we'll see. Okay, so Sorceress Enhancement System. What are you slagging off about me when I'm reading in-game description over Rap God? When reading patch notes, other content, carefully reading every freaking single word. It's because I'm doing it more professionally if I'm doing it like this. If I'm doing one of my Warcraft 3 videos, I don't need to be professional now, do I? Anyway. Many of you might remember the Barbarians' unique arsenal system, their ability to carry and smoothly swap between multiple deadly weapons, which greatly increased their power. We've also been exploring unique class mechanics for our other classes. The main goal for us here is to have a very unique class-specific mechanics in Diablo 4. Hey, shush. Come back to my folding. Where were you going? What was all that weird yapping about? There we go. I like that music. So what was I saying? So going on about the Barbarians' unique arsenal system is now moving on to the Sorceress one. So the ability to carry and smoothly swap between multiple deadly weapons which increase their power. That's interesting. That's its own unique mechanic for the class. We've been exploring unique class mechanics for other classes. So the main goal for us is now to look at the very unique class-specific mechanics in Diablo 4. So we have this goal because Diablo is the kind of game where many players try out different builds of classes, especially during seasonal play. We believe that the unique class mechanics with very different strengths and playstyles compared to others will make exploring the different classes and playing the game much more fun. I can only feel like this is going to be something that's complained about. People are going to say, oh, the Barbarians' ability to swap weapons for like their abilities is so much more overpowered or so bad in comparison to the Sorceress, who just gets this passive strength that's way better than having to swap weapons to get your strength. The Sorceress just gets it for free. Do you know what I mean? I could totally see that happening. So for the balancing, for the Sorceress, we've been trying out the enhancement system. This is how it works. So we had the ball lightning, which conjures a ball of lightning that moves slowly forward. Now it's got an enchant slot effect here under the mastery. When crackling energy would form, ball lightning is formed instead. Oh, okay, so we saw there was those things that said 3% chance to form crackling energy or something along those lines. So it forms another ball lightning, so you get a double one. Ball lightning is no longer collapsing into crackling energy, but that's the cost that you get for it. So you get like a double ball, but you don't get the crackling energy afterwards. So it's sort of like a gift and a curse kind of thing. You take one thing, but you give another. As long as it's not taking too much away. Because who wants to pick stuff that's sort of just going to nerf you? Do you know what I mean? Or is going to take more of the fun away? The Ball Lightning skill, unlike other classes, each Sorcerer's skill has 2 possible effects. Sorcerer skills can be placed into 2 location active skill slot that every other class has also access to, and an enchantment slot. If you place a slot in the skill, place a skill in the enchantment slot, you can no longer use it as an active skill. So if you place a skill in the enchantment slot, you can no longer use it as an active skill. But your character instead gains a secondary bonus power. So what is it effectively turning? This is for people that want more passives or something like that than active abilities. So this is kind of the, unless I'm misreading this is like something similar to maybe Warlocks in, I don't know which stage of World of Warcraft, where instead of having their pet out and actively using their pet, they can just read this book, which destroys the pet but gives them a certain amount of intelligence, effectively giving them almost as much damage as the pet would do, but they just get the flat passive. Do you know what I mean? Instead of having to manage the pet, they just sort of get the buff that increases the power of it. And the same thing for hunters. They can just go marksmanship instead of actually having a pet and just do additional damage instead if they don't have a pet. Anyway. Mr. Pandaria. Yeah, it could be that. 13 points available. Few skill trees. So minor destruction, major destruction, defensive, conjuration, mastery, ultimate. So ball lightning, enchant, slot effect. When crackling energy will form, blah blah blah. So unless we can get our hands on this, it's hard to truly tell what this actually means. But I've certainly piqued my interest. Ball lightning as an enchantment, you can gain the secondary effect of a skill by placing it in an enchantment slot instead of an active skill slot. The power you gain from the enchantments is extremely significant, and you can currently make builds based around your enchantments, your active skills, or a mix of both. I hope it's not going to be too powerful though, because otherwise people are just going to be running around with like 2 spells. They just enchant everything and just have like 2 spells. And then that would lead to really boring gameplay. Here is an example of this system using the Meteor Skill. Meteor allows you to call a fiery chunk of rock from the sky. If you choose to slot it as an enchantment, you won't be able to control your meteors, but they'll fall onto enemies periodically. See, that's what I was talking about, like passive. So now you don't even have to cast it. That's saving you a global cooldown, and it's just strong. Like, that's really strong. The skill is still under development and may be different in the final game. The only way to truly balance things like that is to effectively make it so that the passives aren't as effective as an active. So it rewards the player for actively using the ability over the passive. Because why would you ever pick an active if the passive is going to be stronger? And it's easier because you then don't even have to manage it. We've been testing this class mechanic for a while now, and the team feedback has been really positive. The new system now empowers you to make some interesting choices to strategize around the skills you would want to slot in as an enchantment, as you won't be able to put in one skill in both places. We are also exploring a druid-specific class mechanic as well, and we'll have more information on that to share. Give the druids the ability to fly. Fly really fast. Nice movement speed. Fly inside of dungeons as well. Screw it. Fly to the end boss. Endgame progression system. Lastly, we have been hard at work on our endgame character progressions. This important feature is going to make a little bit more time. It won't be in the next blog, but we wanted to mention it here because it will be the other significant source of power that comes from your class. The system is intended to provide more depth and replayability than what Paragon currently offers in Diablo 3. So, endgame indeed. We and many Blizzard gamers have talked about the concept of easy to learn, difficult to master. We believe that the endgame progression system is where the difficult to master component will come in and should meet the expectations of the most hardcore Diablo players out there. So they're going to have this endgame progression system. They've got the enchantment skills slots, and you've got your talent trees to effectively build your character, other than guild, by the looks of it in Diablo 4. Those are like the mechanics to work with. It doesn't sound like the enchantment passive slot uses up the same skills slots as active skills. You will get both, I think, as you won't be able to put one skill in both places. Also makes it sound like the enchantment slots are separate from active slots. I thought it was replacing like an active, potentially. so you don't actually have to have that extra button to press, and you get a passive instead. But yeah, we'll see. We are excited to read through the feedback from the community regarding our revamped skill and talent system, as well as our new sorceress enchantment system. We are always reading through the comments on our forums, Reddit, social media, and more of your feedback. As always, please remember that none of this is final and the game is still actively in development. Your constructive discussions around these features will help Diablo 4's development the most. And we greatly appreciate that your continued support and discussion related to the game. We will see you in our next quarterly update as we delve deeper into some of the itemization changes that we have coming. Thanks again, David Kim, lead system designer for Diablo 4. Okay, so what do you guys think about all this? So far, seems promising. I like that they're giving options, lots of options. I'm a bit worried about the enchantment system. Obviously, that's something that can be balanced, though. But do you remember, it was really more of a glitch than it was actually a deliberate feature. But in Diablo 3 in the early days, there was this build for Sorceress that unfortunately I never got to manipulate because I didn't have a high level Sorceress when this came through, but I did have a friend that was playing one. But you could pick the Arcane Shield and something else, and if you had effectively almost no health, so you removed all gear and only had these two things, it would give you a shield that would defend you against all damage or something like that, depending on how your gear or something along those lines. So if you had no gear for some reason, it would basically make you invincible, and you just had to keep activating the shield, and you could just go around killing everything, and you were basically invincible. It's really hard to describe much more than that because I can't remember it. It was many years ago, but I remember my friend doing that for as long as they could before it got nerfed. But the idea, the premise is still this kind of similar thing where it's just you are just basically activating the shield and then just using your left mouse button and killing everything. There's no sort of, okay, I'm going to gather all the mobs, I'm going to use this ability, then as I'm running away from the mobs, I'm going to activate this ability because it leaves a trail of fire for them to follow into, and then as they get close, I'm going to blink through them, and that's going to electrify them. Let's just press one button instead. So you've got to be careful with that kind of stuff, because it's fun to have that one button and just destroy everything, but for how long is it fun? Yeah. Look at the age with the skills on it. There's at the bottom your set of active skills, and then 3 circles right above them. Where are which are the enchantment slots? So where was this? This is further this bit, was it? Or here? Look at the age. The page with the skills on it. There's at the bottom your set. So those are your active skills. Oh, I see. Oh, so it's similar to Diablo 3 then in that sense. Didn't you sort of pick what your skill was going to be in Diablo 3? You had like a choice of 3 things and you could have that as that active. Yeah, that's good. Give you more spells, like old school Diablo style, where you, not to the extent where you had to like read a whole book of spells or something like that. You can only have one at a time. That was a bit painful. But giving you a lot more spells to cast than just Fireball or something would be cool. So, okay. Let me know what you guys think in regards to this latest Diablo 4 news. I'm happy to read about it though, because I'm tentatively excited about Diablo 4, but I don't expect it to be released for like another couple of years, so we still got some time. Thanks again for watching.